like to invite forward Mr. Matthew Giorgio from the diocese of Sioux Falls to give his vocation story.
Father Kelly, Reverend Fathers, honored guests, and my brothers. I was raised in a Catholic family with two parents who modeled the faith and raised me in the faith very well. So we went to Sunday Mass every weekend, and I also went to CCD as I grew up. Now, I did rather enjoy CCD, got to hang out with my friends, even get Skittles if I answered the questions right. So as I grew up, I learned about God, but I didn't really have an experience or a deeper knowledge of what it meant that God loved me. But God used all of that exactly as it was where I was at and used it to bring me deeper. So as we went through CCD, we learned about what was right, what was wrong, morality. And I was a decent kid. I believed what I was being taught, and so I tried to put it into practice as best I could. But as I got older, it became more and more evident to me that I failed at doing that sometimes. And the thought of that failure started to weigh on me more and more, and eventually even started to feel shame about my sins. But after freshman year, I went to a summer camp put on by our diocese, and there was a chance for confession and adoration one night. And I decided I was going to go to confession, but I was really, really ashamed of the sins that I had, and so it really kind of took some courage for me to actually confess my sins, really for the first time in my life. But after finally working up the courage and spitting out those sins, I received the Lord's mercy, and there was a deep relief. Of course, there's a sort of natural relief from just getting that off my chest. But there was something deeper there too. From receiving the Lord's mercy and knowing that I was forgiven, I finally had a tangible, experiential knowledge that God loved me, right? I knew that God loved me, but I messed up. But he still loved me, and he actually forgave me through it all. And so that was big. And then I went back after confession to adoration, and God just hit that home. He kept making me more and more aware of the fact that he loved me. And so I got super enthusiastic, I was going to go home and pray every day. It was going to be fantastic. And that was a grace from the Lord. But as I got home, that enthusiasm kind of sputtered out. And so my life was more or less exactly how it was before. But again, God used me where I was to bring me deeper. And so throughout high school, God used relationships, my families, more retreats and camps to make my relationship with him more steady and to make my knowledge of his love for me more persistent throughout my life. All right, fast forward to senior year. I've begun on these camps and retreats, and I've heard a lot about vocational discernment, about priesthood, seminary, all that. I had actually been given the tools to discern, namely Ignatius's rule of discernment through these camps, as well as other various talks that I'd been given. So I felt pretty confident that I knew how to discern, and I knew it was something I should do. And so even though I wasn't really desiring priesthood, I decided I would give it a shot and start praying. And so at the advice of my pastor, I took 10 minutes a day and asked God, okay, what do you want me to do with my life? But specifically asking too, do you want me to go to seminary after high school? And I did this for a while, and like I said, I didn't have a particular desire to go to seminary. In fact, at first I was rather opposed to it, but I tried to be open. And after doing this for a while, God didn't really give me any clear directions out of that time of prayer. He didn't tell me specifically, okay, go to seminary. And so I knew that I could rely on the natural desires God had given me for a family and for a love of math to go pursue a degree in that. And so after a little bit more discernment, I decided to come to University of St. Thomas and pursue a degree in math and Catholic studies. Now, after my senior year of high school, I was a missionary for Totus Tuus. And it was kind of over that summer that I started to see desires in my heart that I thought, okay, maybe I should reconsider seminary. Now, that summer was the COVID shutdown summer, right? So it really didn't look like normal Totus Tuus if you're familiar with it. But we stayed in parishes for a whole month instead of just a week. And so I really got to see in the life of the priest that I was living with, actually in the rectory, I got to see desires on my heart corresponding to his life that I was like, whoa, I actually desire that. And so the first desire was really a desire to be close to Jesus through a life of prayer. The second was to serve Jesus in the Eucharist. The third was to serve Jesus in his church through ministry. And I saw the way that the priest was living it out, and I said, I actually desire that. And I wasn't, totally sure if I was going to go to seminary because of that, but that was enough for me to start thinking about it again. And so as that summer wrapped up and I went back to St. Thomas, I decided to start praying about it again. And this time, because seminary was a much more imminent possibility, I kind of freaked out. I really started to overanalyze myself, seminary, try to have tight control over myself. But again, God used that and kind of called me to deeper trust in Him. And slowly, I was able to let go of my own desire for control and able to trust Him. And as the peace in my heart with coming to seminary became more and more clear, I was more and more sure that that was what God was asking of me. And so eventually, I sent it. In November, I asked for an application, and by January, I was on a Zoom call with Dr. Bob Schutz in the Newman class. It was quite a change. But I'm super glad I made that choice. Since coming to seminary, God has continued to reveal His love for me, just like He did at that moment in confession. There's been growth in freedom to discern, growth in desire for the priesthood. And He's continued to help me to let go of that desire for control and to trust Him, preparing me to, if it's His will, trust Him every day as a priest. And so for His goodness to me through all of this and His providential care for me, I can say, praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever.